Hi guys, this is Martin. In this video I want to show a few issues, or the topic is basically screen resolutions, screen size, scaling of applications, and yeah, kind of what has changed over the last, let's say, 20 years or something. So what you see right now is basically one of my screens, which is a 4K resolution screen. Obviously, you can properly read my nickname, Pops Martin, because I used a pretty big font. But once I open, for example, internet browser, let's have a look at the internet browser, you will see everything looks super, super tiny. And yeah, that's because it's a 4K screen. And right now, the resolution inside the browser window is set to 100%. And luckily, nowadays, we have the option to increase or zoom, basically, the browser window content. So I just increase the zoom to, let's say, 175 or maybe even 200%. And now, with this scaled content, I can properly read everything. And you likely can also read now if you have kind of at least mid-sized screen where you watch this video. But still, the menu items are still very small. The text is really small here. And there is no way inside this browser software to scale this. Yeah, so there is an issue. I know on Windows we can use the system-wide scaling, but I don't want to go into that for now, because I want to actually have access to the 4K resolution whenever I need it. I don't want to basically reduce the effective resolution by scaling the entire Windows system. Yeah. Anyway, as you can see here in this browser, we can scale the window content. We cannot scale basically the window frame with all the menus and everything. Yeah. So that's kind of, let's say let's call it 2000 technology. Yeah, it's not 2010, it's not 2020, it's like kind of 2000 technology. Let me jump into Cubase for now, because that's a good platform to show you something. And if I knew where my project window is, I could do even better. Let's say new project. Yeah. You can already see that everything is really small here, because my system resolution is still 4K or 100% in terms of window scaling. Now you can see the project window of Cubase. And what I want to do is, for example, I add an instrument track like Contact 5. And once you see Contact 5, you can see that there is a window. Yeah, nice. And let me load some instruments, some Mark I electric piano, and basically everything is pretty small here. I'm quite sure that you will not be able to properly see anything there. You really have to zoom in or have a big screen to watch this video. And there's very limited options to scale something, because basically you only scale the window, but you don't scale the content of the windows. Everything stays basically the same size, and that's terrible, because this software, in this case Contact 5, has been designed for kind of smaller screens, and probably the basic framework of Contact 5 has been created many years ago with no big screens in mind. So that's really terrible. And if I show you one more thing, let me check. For example, here we have a compressor plugin, which is also part of this native instrument stuff. And there is no scaling at all. Yeah, you can't scale anything here. It's like fixed size. So if you want to make it bigger, no way. Unless you reduce the screen resolution, which makes no sense, because I want to have 4K, because I want to benefit basically from stuff like, let me see, even if we don't have many tracks right now, still you can see the mixer window. I can fit plenty of faders here, and that's what I'm working with. If I have many tracks, yeah, and I can even squeeze them a little bit or expand them depending on how many tracks I have. So that's the reason why I have a 4K display in the first place, to have space. Yeah. So it's kind of terrible if you have, in the year 2020, if you have software that's not properly scalable. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. So let me show you yet another example. I confess, again, it's a VSTi, but it doesn't matter. The same applies to actual Windows software as well. Let me add this track. It's a Toontrack Superior Drummer 3. And right now, what it is, it's basically the 100% regular default scaling. Yeah, and I can resize the window. As you can see, I can resize it. I can make it pretty big. Yeah, but the content doesn't scale, and basically the menus around doesn't scale. But I can do scaling here. When I go to the menu view, scale, and then instead of 100%, let me just switch to 150%, for example. It takes a second to recalculate everything, and now, damn, great. Now everything, even the fonts, even the menus, everything is slightly bigger. Let me go a little bit extreme now. Let me go even further up to, to 200%. Great. Now I can really see everything. Even if you are watching it on a smaller screen, you should be able to actually see something. And if I go, for example, to the Grooves window, where it's kind of comparable to a software I will show you later, then you can actually see and read properly these small text. Let me switch back to 100% to show you the difference one more time. 100% is really small. Wow. You really need eagle eyes to read anything there. Yeah. So scaling is really crucial for software nowadays, because there are so many different screen sizes. Not only screen resolutions, but also screen sizes, that you really want to adapt to what you're working with. Your tools have to adapt to your environment. All right, next example, because what we've seen just before, the Superior Drummer, I would say that's almost 2020 kind of software design. Almost. Let's say it's 2018 kind of technology. Let's call it that. Now, where is it? There we go. It's the pretty new Nexus 3 software sampler, synthesizer, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it's pretty famous VSTi Nexus by ReFX, and they have just released Nexus 3, but I don't want to do any kind of promotion for this synthesizer, but it's a very good example for what I would consider to be 2020 software design, because this scaling is just amazing. So all I need to do is basically drag the window down in the bottom right corner to rescale it, and you can see that the content immediately scales. So that's really, really good. Now you would say, okay, that's a VST plugin. No, it's not just a VST plugin. Since we have seen basically everything I wanted to show you inside of Cubase, because there's just nice examples for this scaling, I just quit Cubase. We don't have to save the project. And yeah, now let me just pick, where is Nexus. No, it was Superior Drummer. I'm sorry about that. No, it doesn't work with Nexus. Anyway, let's get to the point. Kemper Rig Manager. This is pretty much the biggest nightmare in software design of 2020, because there is no scaling at all. And I intentionally show it to you on my 4K screen, and there is no zoom, there's nothing there to adapt it to my environment. And these microscopic texts over there, it's really unreadable. It's not possible, even though I have a 40-inch 4K screen here. It's absolutely impossible to work with this beast. So I really ask you guys to please, please, please come up with some modern technology, with some modern app scaling, because that's basically the way it worked in 1990. No, let's not be unfair. Let's say in the 2000s, in the first decade of this millennium. That was basically the way software was designed, because yeah, you still have your kind of sidebars scrolling, so you can resize the window. Yeah, you can do that, but there is no scaling at all of menus or window content, nothing. And I can't imagine how it's possible to seriously develop software like that nowadays. There's so many tools where you can do proper scaling. So please, please, please use scaling, because your small laptop screen is not the end of the world. There's bigger screens, there's bigger resolutions, and we want to make use of these resolutions. You will not convince me to switch my windows to 150% scaling or 200% scaling, because that defeats the purpose of using 4K, for example, for a mixer window. Now I will show you one more example before I stop this video, and that is basically the RME software interface mixer. And as you can see, now it's lots of inputs, and that's so small. It's impossible to read anything there. It's absolutely impossible. But at least here I can switch to, for example, 200% scaling. And now I can already work with it. I can properly read it. Everything is fine with me, apart from one thing. It's not actual proper scaling in terms of free scaling. It only offers a few steps of scaling, like 100, 125, or no, 135 it is, 200, and I think it's 270%. So as you can see, vertically, it doesn't fill the screen. There is wasted screen property. I would love to scale it even more. The only other option I have is 270%, and when I select this, bam, it gets bigger, but I can't see the bottom of the window, and I can't move this window up or something. Yeah, it's really, it just doesn't fit the screen. How is that possible? So the only option for me is basically to switch to 200%, and this way everything seems to work properly and fine. Yeah, scaling. I love the fact that this RME Total Mix Effects screen has the option to actually scale, because when I use it on my laptop, it's a different situation than when I use it here on my 40-inch screen, and scaling is crucial. But I showed you the example of Nexus 3 by ReFX. That's proper scaling, because I can scale it to whatever dimensions I want, and the content and the menus and everything scales according to what I do. So one more time, please, 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 welcome to 2020. You really should introduce scaling to your Rig Manager and Editor window. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.